So next update we are going to do in the Log4j API. Now again, we are majorly integrating logs for Selenium, for APM, for rest assured, right? Whichever API that you're following, log creation is one of the most important tasks, right? And like when working with like Selenium or APM, we used to generate like one is like application logs. These are the user defined logs, right? And one is something related to the server logs or Selenium response logs, right? We used to create a separate file for it. Now this is like we cannot generate it anymore from 3.x version of Selenium. So the only logs that will be able to generate is application logs now if you are working on the latest API. And also Log4j, there are two APIs. One is Log4J1 and the other one is Log4J2, right? You can use any one of these. Preferably, if you talk about my choice, then I prefer working on Log4j1 more, because I find it very comfortable and there are many good features in Log4j. Although logs generation using 1 and 2 is almost the same process, right? But the configuration of Log4j is very simple, and you should be able to configure it very easily, right? So there are little changes in the process of Log4j that you may have seen in my existing videos, and I'm going to update it in the new video lecture over here. So what there are some prerequisites. First, you need to have that Log4j API, as in the dependency or the jar file, added to the project. Then you need is the log files. Now this will be auto generated this time, right? So you need not to manually generate it. Then you need to call a class called as logger. So how are we going to configure it? I'm going to configure the Log4j entirely again. So what we'll be doing, we'll go to Maven repository and we'll be downloading Log4j from here, and we're gonna go with one like Log4j1 at this moment, and then I'm gonna show you Log4j2 as well, right? So whichever you feel comfortable in, you can configure that with your existing frameworks. So now this is the dependency. I'll be adding this dependency to my pom.xml file. I'll just paste it over here so that we should get the Log4j jars. If you go to Maven repository, Maven dependency, you'll see the Log4j over here, right? So now first we need the Log4j appenders. So Log4j appenders, will be using it in a form of a properties file. You can add them in a form of a XML file as well. There are some people who prefer using properties. There are some people who prefer using Log4j. The configuration is almost similar. So since we are using properties, I'll be I've also shown how to configure it through XML in my Log4j lecture. So in case you want to configure it through XML, you can do it in that way as well. But here in this example, I'm going to show it with the help of properties file. So we'll be adding the Log4j properties, and I'll gonna take it from one of my lecture, Log4j. I'll be taking it from here. So this is Log4j properties, and we're gonna add it into the resources. So now here there are different log levels. So I have chosen the highest level as info. So I should be able to configure debug, error, information, all the other log levels. Then this is going to be a file appender. So because we'll be appending the logs in the file, you can use console appender, but that will gonna add the logs in the console, right? So next run you might not able to see those logs. So that's the reason we generally generate it in a file. And if I provide a path like this in my current directory in the src test resources, it is going to add a logs folder, and in that you're gonna see applog.txt will be generated. right? And then this is a standard pattern layout. The pattern with the current timestamp and the class name, all these things will be added over here. Append equal to false means if you make it false every time the fresh logs will be generated, the file will be overridden, right? The old log should go away. If you do it true, then the logs will be generated in the same file. Maximum file size means like 5000 KB is the maximum file size limit. If it exceeds that, there will be backup indexes like log underscore 1 underscore 2 up till 3 backup indexes. The log files will be generated, right? So this is what your log4j appenders are, which you need to add with the help of log4j properties. Now, how to initiate logs? I'm gonna create a new class over here and say test logs. So in order to initiate logs, there's a class called as logger. So I'm gonna initiate the object of logger class using the method logger dot get logger. So get logger, when you are adding it, make sure you have not added it through Java util. Otherwise, your logs will not gonna get generated. You should be adding it through Apache log4j dot logger, right? And here in the class name, you'll be defining your current class name. Say test logs dot test logs dot class dot get name. This should get the name of your current class and will add it to your logs. Now whenever you want to generate logs, you can say log dot info and start adding your messages. So say this is the information log. In case you want to add error, log dot error. So here the error logs will be printed, right? This is how you'll be adding the logs, right? So whenever you're doing execution through Selenium, through Appium, through REST assured, any Java API that you use, you'll be adding a message log.info wherever you want to generate the logs, right? Now, how to configure this properties file, how to tell your system that properties file is over here. You can tell it with the help of a class called as property configurator, and press a dot, you'll get a method configure, and here you need to give the path of your properties file. So it is inside the current root. Current root is the current folder. You're gonna get it with dot and backslash your current directory. It will gonna give you this folder. Inside it, it is inside src test resources properties. So src test resources properties log4j dot properties files, right? This is how you'll be giving your file path over here, and that's it. We have done all the configuration. If I run this thing now, you're gonna see, if you refresh your project, refresh, you'll see a log folder added. If you open this, your logs are generated. First is the info. See, utilities package, test logs class, and this is what the logs that you're gonna find. This is the information log, and here the error logs will be printed, right, along with error and the info log level with the current timestamp that's been added over here, right? So this is how you should be generating the logs. There are other things that you can configure in logs in case you want that you want to append the logs in the same log file. Because what happens, see, right now if you look at the timestamp, it's 15, 59, 53. If I again run it, you're gonna see that the logs are overwritten, right? But if I go to log4j property and if I say append equal to true, and if I run this code again, you're gonna see the logs will be appended in the same file, right? At each run, the logs will be appended to the same file. But if you want that every time new logs should be generated, then make it as false. And when you run it again, you're gonna see that it will overwrite that file and should generate the new logs only, right? This is what the append like equal to false or true feature is all about. Now, there was a question asked by one of my student that if I want every time on each execution, I don't want to override these logs, and even I don't want to append the logs. I want a new log file should be generated all the time. So how can I do that? Yes, that is doable. What you need to do over here, you can do something like dollar and give a variable name, let's say call it as current dot date. So this value you can achieve it while setting up your uh, file path, right? So what will happen when you run it, this thing will be captured from your current system properties, right? How you going to configure it? Wherever you are generating logs, just you need to configure timestamp. So timestamping will be done like this: date t equal to new date. Now what happens when you import this through Java util, and if you print this D, if you print D, I'll comment out the other part. If you print this D, you're gonna see that it has printed the current date, right? Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna replace this colon and this space with underscore because this is not supported in the file name, and I'm gonna say d dot to string dot replace. So to string, we're gonna convert it into string, and the string is actually this method like returns the string class itself. So you can put a dot over here, call another class, other method of string class, that is replace old character with new character. So here the old character is colon and the new character is underscore, and then replace also returns your string. So put a dot and again say replace old character, that is underscore, and space, and the new character is underscore. So if I save this and run this, this will gonna give you something like this. And if you add it to system dot set property current dot date and give this value over here, so current date value will be assigned like this, right? And now if you uncomment and run this again, and let's gonna see what happens. So if I refresh this project again, you're gonna see a log with the file name current timestamp is generated. And every time, like when you run it, on each execution, you're gonna find a new log file will be generated, and all the logs will be appended to the new log file, right? On every run, you run it 2 times, 5 times, the seconds will be different, and all the time you're gonna see a new log file will be generated with each execution, and all of these will gonna have the updated logs, right? So this is how you can work with Log4j API, right? And you can auto generate these log files. There are no system generated logs will be supported now. You'll be only able to generate your own logs, right, with a current timestamp, with the new file being created all the time, right? And you can configure your property file. You can keep it at any location, and you can configure it with the help of a class called as property configurator, right? So this is what your Log4j API, the update in the API that we have added to the course. All right, thank you.